This is a fascinating story. I'm going to share a clip with you in a second. But basically, this is about a Texas pastor who warned his congregation that anyone who associates with critics of his criminally charged buddy will be murdered. And I'm going to show you what he actually said. This story involves a guy named Jeremy Pfeil of Accelerate Church in Amarillo, Texas. This is who we're talking about here. But basically, this guy was delivering a sermon, and he was very mad that rumors were spreading about a friend of his. And so I'm going to play you this sermon, and we're going to talk about it. There's two things I got to set you up for. First is that the name of the buddy, his buddy who's being charged with something, his name is James Randolph. So you're going to hear that name in the clip. And Jeremy here is going to talk about how unfair Jeremy's being treated. The other thing he points out is that he never hangs out with people who are sexually immoral. And that includes gay people. And then he's going to tell you a weird story about how he hangs out with gay people. And we're going to talk about that too. Let me play you this clip. Enjoy watching it and listen out for the line about the punishment for people who talk shit about his buddy.
I'm saying this because you might have heard that my friend James Randolph has been lied about recently. And whenever I get a call from him and he tells me about that, he's going to court tomorrow. I believe that he's going to be, I believe justice will be served and all liars will be exposed. Eventually it's going to happen one way or another. You mark my word. It always happens. But to think that people that left our fellowship are somehow involved in encouraging that made me go on high alert. I'm not going to allow people like that around here, and I'm letting you know that. They're not going to come and video. They're not going to come and do this. And if you still talk to them and you listen to them, you're going to be sniped and taken out, and you don't come crying to me later. I've warned you and warned you and warned you and warned you and warned you. If you think this is a personal matter, you've missed the entire boat. This is a spiritual war that we're in. Men that I respect and look up to are being lied about. Now, you can either trust that or not. I know we live in David. You say, I don't know if we can trust. You better listen to what I'm saying. I don't hang out with pervs. Pervs run away from me. They always have. Since I follow God with all my heart, they've run away from me. I told a story. I heard myself on the radio telling it recently. You may not understand this. I've reached out to the LGBT lifestyle for a long time in the past to try to get them born again. And one night I had one of them in the car. I went to pick him up for church, and he had grown his nails out. And he said, I tell you right now, if you hate on me, I'll scratch you to death. I said, you ain't going to touch me. You're going to either repent or else you're going to get out of this car. I ain't putting up with that. Now, I'm not hating on anybody either, but I don't have to confirm your sinful lifestyle. The church does not exist to confirm sin. It exists to get you out of sin and so that you can reign in life.
There was a lot going on there. Holy crap. Okay, first of all, if you have to say, I don't hang out with pervs, like his I don't hang out with pervs t-shirt has people asking a lot of questions already answered by the shirt. Also, what's that bit about hanging out with the LGBT lifestyle in his car with someone who clearly doesn't want to go to church? Now I have questions about that too. So that all of that part, that's just weird. And like all of you are commenting, like, yeah, I'm waiting for that story to be broken too. But okay, what are we talking about with this buddy, James Randolph? Because that is the real story here. Because he just said anyone who talks smack or basically spreads the charges about James Randolph will be sniped and taken out. He's going to murder his own congregation if they talk about what's in the news. So his congregation isn't allowed to talk about what's in the news, but I'm not in the congregation, so let's talk about it. James Randolph, you should know, is not just some random dude. He is the son-in-law of a televangelist named Mark Barclay. And I'm going to show you an article about Mark Barclay because it turns out televangelist Mark Barclay is a grifter. This is an actual headline from the Christian Post. Televangelist asks followers for $79,000 to do paint job on Lord's jet he bought last year. This guy wanted $80,000 from his followers to paint his private jet. And you know what? I will say for the Christian Post, this illustration is glorious. Well played, Christian Post. So that is the family that James Randolph married into. It's a televangelist with enough money to have a private jet. And James Randolph worked at that guy's ministry called Living Word International Church, based in Michigan. Or at least he did work there until like this past month, when this is the news that became public. Living Word Church minister Reverend James Randolph arrested for sexual assault. Like, you knew that was coming. And according to this article, Living Word International Church minister James Randolph was arrested and charged Tuesday with first-degree criminal sexual conduct involving a relationship, 4 counts of second-degree criminal sexual conduct, and 1 count of accosting children for immoral purposes for crimes allegedly occurring in 2011. Randolph is charged with 7 felony counts and is out of jail on a $500,000 cash bond. His second-degree criminal sexual conduct charges include one allegedly with a person under 13 years old and 2 involving a relationship. He was arraigned on the charges, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So this guy is accused, he's not in jail. He hasn't been found guilty. He has been charged, though, with something very serious and very icky. And it's criminal sexual assault of a child. That's what he's been accused of. Now, I'm not passing any judgment on the guy. I don't know the specifics. And I think anyone accused of something as serious as that, you got to let the system play out. You got to let the sides present evidence and all that stuff. I will tell you, he is out of jail. When they went to court, it was to try to change up the terms of his bond. And the court denied that motion. So there is an examination hearing soon. This will play out in courts. I don't know what happens. But while we are waiting for that to happen, that is a real charge that took place. You know what's also messed up? Those are 7 charges that took place. The church, by the way, put that guy, James Randolph, on administrative leave after the charges were filed. And then they put out a statement saying the allegations do not involve the church and the alleged acts did not take place in the church, as if that's like, hey, don't blame us. We had nothing to do with this. And it's like, he worked for you, buddy. I know you think the church is not complicit in this. However, by the way, this arrest of James Randolph came months after someone else who worked at the same church was charged with almost identical crimes. So, like, what the hell is in their baptismal water? Weird. So, look, you got to take the charges seriously, if nothing else, because if they are found to be true, if he is found guilty, then the guy, not only does the guy deserve to be imprisoned or whatever the punishment will be, but that means the people who are defending him need to answer for themselves as well. And the good news is all those charges appear to be taken seriously by everyone outside of this church. Meanwhile, Pfeil over here, the guy you saw in that clip, is acting like his buddy is a victim of unfair persecution. Right? He's urging his church to avoid social media where details about the case may be posted online. The guy, by the way, who posted that clip, you won't find that sermon online anymore because he took it down. But there was a Christian watchdog who clipped that sermon, and he also pointed out that in a separate part of that very sermon, Pfeil bragged about how his 2-year-old son obeyed him whenever he was threatened with a wooden spoon. So this pastor is a moral monster himself. He thinks violence is the way to get your kid to be obedient. And like just a whole church full of messed up people. And here's the thing, even if Randolph is found guilty, what do you think this guy's going to do? Is he going to apologize? No, of course not. He's never going to admit he misjudged his buddy. If his buddy is found guilty, it'll be the criminal justice system that's the problem. The judge was anti-Christian. They were out to persecute the guy, whatever. He'll never admit his best friend is, in his words, a perv that he hangs out with. Like so many right-wing zealots, like he's only going to get more defensive while ignoring any evidence to the contrary. And the sad thing is, if people in his congregation even dare to consider the proof, he's going to treat them like outcasts and slander them with faith-based rhetoric and make sure they're cut out of any church-based social circles, because that's how these culty type of churches operate. So it's worth keeping a close eye on this church, keeping a close eye on that pastor, because he looks like he has skeletons in the closet, and also seeing what happens if and when this buddy of his is found guilty. How are these people going to react? That's worth keeping an eye on. But man, telling your congregation I'm going to murder you if you spread this charge, that's intense.